Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. He slams the cabinet door and the plate rattles near my hand. I flinch and grip the edge of the counter to steady myself. My name is Mia and I am 30 and suddenly very awake. He stands across from me breathing hard like he ran here. Then he asks whose baby I am carrying. For a second I honestly think I misheard him completely. I laugh once by reflex and it sounds sharp and wrong. My palm slides off the counter because my hand is sweating. He does not smile, he just stares at my stomach. The room feels smaller with that look pinned there. He lifts his phone and taps the screen with his thumb. I see the calendar app before he turns it toward me. His voice shakes, but he keeps it low on purpose. You want to explain this timeline to me or not? He holds the phone like it is proof and a weapon. On the screen there are circles and notes and numbers. Little marks on days that suddenly look like traps now. He has counted weeks and days around the positive test. He has circled the night of the procedure in angry red. His finger taps the gap like he found a secret doorway. Back then I thought we were on the same side. Standing here I can feel that idea cracking under my feet. I open my mouth and nothing comes out at first. He watches that silence like it confirms every fear already. I can tell he rehearsed this whole scene without me. Finally words stumble out and I ask what he means. He laughs through his nose like I told a bad joke. You got pregnant too fast and you know it. He drags a chair back and sits without really sitting. He is half out of it like he might spring forward. I tell him the clinic gave us that window, remember? The dates fall out of my mouth all tangled and desperate. He waves his hand like he is swatting a fly. You are not going to gaslight me with medical talk today. The word gaslight hits harder than the slammed cabinet earlier. I feel the baby shift and my shirt pulls a little. His eyes drop there and something mean flashes across his face. That might not even be mine and you know it. He pushes his chair back with a harsh scrape on tile. My brain stops on that one word, mine, like a crash. Here is the part I still replay at 3 in the morning. I do not shout, I do not throw anything at him. I actually step closer like I need to comfort him. My hand reaches for his wrist out of old habit. He pulls away so fast you would think I burned him. You swear you did not sleep with anyone else? The question hangs there thick, heavier than any punch. I hear how small my own voice sounds when I answer. No, I did not, and you already know that. He studies my face like he is waiting for a twitch. He stands and starts pacing between the table and sink. Every turn he clips the same chair with his hip. You went in there alone that day, I remember that. His hands cut the air like he is drawing a diagram. He acts like the clinic is a motel with punch cards. I can feel my chest heating like embarrassment and fury mixed. I remind him there were nurses there and paperwork and forms. He stops with his back to me and his shoulders tense. So you never thought about anyone else, not once. His voice drops on the last words like they hurt to say. I think about lying just to calm him for a minute. Telling him I understand why he feels this way right now. Telling him it is the stress or the job or whatever. The problem is I am tired of folding myself into cushions. The problem is this baby is real and I am done bending. I tell him if he wants to accuse me, then be clear. Do you think I cheated or do you think science lied? He turns around and his eyes look wet and furious. You used me to get what you wanted, that is all. Hearing that from him hurts in a way I did not expect. He walks to the fridge and grips the handle and stops. His head leans forward like he wants to smash it. I remember thinking this is the point I should leave. Instead, I stay planted next to the counter like furniture. I wait to see what version of him turns back around. When he faces me again, his expression is colder, not louder. Fine, then prove it, and his mouth twists on the word. Prove this baby is connected to me in any way. He pulls open the drawer and starts digging through papers. The clatter in that drawer sounds like the end of something. He finds an old folder and tosses it onto the table. Pages spill out, forms and printouts and pamphlets on glossy paper. He jabs one line with his finger without even reading it. You made me sign all this and now it feels fake. He looks at his own name on the page like a stranger. I tell him those signatures meant we were doing this together. The word together tastes bitter leaving my mouth now. He laughs once and it cracks halfway like his voice breaks. You wanted a baby more than you wanted a husband, right? That sentence lands between us like a dare and a verdict. I ask what he actually wants from me in this moment. An admission, a confession, I see. Ribbed where I fall apart. He stares a long time and I watch his jaw move. Then he says he wants the truth even if it kills us. The way he says kills us makes my stomach clench hard. I could walk out right then and end the argument. Grab my keys and my phone and call a friend. I imagine it for a second like a split-screen choice. In the real version, I stay and keep arguing instead. That is the part that still makes me angrier with myself. He steps closer finally and we are almost chest to chest. He is not shouting now, which somehow feels even worse. I do not feel like a father, I feel like a placeholder. His hands hang useless at his sides like he lost a script. I know he expects me to fix what he just broke. I tell him again this baby exists because we chose help. Because we agreed that love mattered more than his biology. He closes his eyes when I say biology like it stings. When he opens them, he looks at me like a stranger. He whispers that maybe love was never enough for this. That is the sentence that really does it for me. Not the accusation, not the numbers, not the twisted calendar. That quiet maybe from his mouth feels worse than a confession. In that moment, I know we are standing on a fault line. And I already feel the first small shake under our feet. The doctor pushes a folder toward us and folds her hands. He pulls his knee back like he got kicked under the table. My stomach drops before she even opens her mouth fully. I already know this is not one of the gentle talks. She starts with "I am sorry" and everything tilts a little. He stares straight ahead and does not blink for a while. His leg bounces so hard the chair gives a tiny shudder. I keep waiting for him to ask something and he does not. So I am the one who leans closer and nods once. I tell her to just say it and not stretch this out. She uses words like zero and non-viable and severe factor diagnosis. Every term lands between us like another brick on the table. She points to a number on the page with one blunt finger. He does not even glance down to see what ruined everything. I feel my throat tighten but my eyes stay dry somehow. He finally grabs the paper and holds it too tight. The corner digs into his palm, yet he keeps squeezing harder. There has to be some error in your test, right? His voice sounds rough and hoarse like he swallowed sand. He asks about new samples, new labs, new anything with hope. The doctor does not rush to fill the silence this time. She has done this before and it shows in her posture. She talks about repeated tests giving the same harsh result. She explains how many samples they already evaluated behind these walls. I watch his shoulders sink a fraction with every short sentence. I jump in and ask what options even exist from here. My voice shakes on options because it sounds like settling already. She starts listing paths, medical support, donor programs, support groups online. He exhales hard on that one word donor like it stinks. He tips his head back and stares at the ceiling in disbelief. I remember thinking he looks like he is trying not to cry. At the same time, I am already building plans in my head. I am mentally moving furniture and calendars to fit treatments somewhere. I hate that about myself, sometimes the automatic fixing instinct. Back then I called it strength, now it feels like denial. He stands up so fast the chair scrapes against the floor. The doctor stops mid-sentence and glances quickly at me. He mutters something about air and walks straight out the door. I apologize with my eyes and hurry after him down the hall. My sneakers squeak on the floor and the sound feels too loud. I catch up near the elevator where he leans on the wall. His hands are pressed flat like he is holding it up. He looks at me once and then away just as fast. I ask if he wants water or to sit or anything. He shakes his head sharp and jabs the button 3 times. Inside the elevator, he keeps his jaw clenched and eyes closed. I count the floors in my head because silence burns. When the doors open, he strides out toward the parking structure. I follow a few steps behind and watch his shoulders roll. He looks like someone fighting with gravity and losing every second. We reach the car and he just stands there staring at it. Then he slams his fist down on the roof once. The sound echoes off concrete and makes my whole body jump. He does it again softer like he regrets the first blow. His forehead rests against the metal and his shoulders start shaking. I step close and lightly touch his back between his shoulders. He inhales sharply like I startled him, then goes still. I tell him quietly that none of this changes who he is. The words feel thin even while I say them out loud. He turns and his eyes are wet and furious and stunned. So that is it, I am defective now. He laughs once and the sound cracks right down the middle. I tell him he is not broken, he is grieving some thing important. He wipes his face quickly with the heel of his hand. He asks what kind of man cannot even do this basic thing. That question hangs there heavier than any diagnosis in that folder. I tell him plenty of men go through the same nightmare. He looks at me like I just insulted him personally. I am not plenty of men, he almost spits the words. He leans back against the car and stares across the lot. Then he grabs the door handle and slides into the seat. He grips the steering wheel so tight his knuckles stand out. We sit there without starting the engine for a long moment. I finally ask what he wants to do after today. He presses his lips together and shrugs like a teenager cornered. We could repeat the test if you need that. I offer it gently like a step, not like a command. He nods once and stares at the empty spot ahead. Then his voice drops lower and he whispers something I almost miss. What if the next one is the same number or worse? I do not have a magic answer and we both know it. So I reach over and rest my hand on his wrist. For a second he lets it stay there and breathes slower. Then his phone buzzes with a notification from the clinic portal. He jerks his arm away and unlocks the screen too fast. An email waits with a cheerful subject about next steps. He opens it and reads the first line, then flings the phone. It lands on the seat and lights the interior with its glow. He laughs without humor and asks if they send confetti too. I stare at the word options glowing on the screen between us. That night the house feels too quiet even with the television on. He sits on the couch hunched over his laptop searching nonstop. I watch page after page of forums flash across his face. Men talking about low numbers and lost chances and leaving partners. The fear in those threads seeps into the room like smoke. Every few minutes he throws a new statistic at me. Look, this guy had it worse and got a miracle baby. Look, this clinic says numbers do not always mean game over. His voice swings between desperate and triumphant with every new headline. He keeps hunting for one story that rewrites our reality tonight. At some point I close the laptop gently and hold it. He looks up like I just unplugged his oxygen supply. I tell him I am not giving up and neither is he. But we cannot chase one in a million stories until sunrise every night. His shoulders drop a little as the weight of that sinks in. We sit facing each other on opposite ends of the couch. You still want kids after hearing all that he asks quietly. The question bruises me because that dream never felt negotiable before. I answer yes without hesitation and my voice comes out steady. He searches my face for even a flicker of doubt or pity. He runs a hand through his hair and exhales for a while. Then he asks a different question, one that changes everything. Would you ever consider using another source if I agree? The phrase another source lands between us like something illegal. I recognize it as his way of saying donor without saying it. I do not answer fast and that silence scares him instantly. He starts backpedaling and saying, forget it, pretend I never asked. I hold up my hand and tell him I am thinking. Not about leaving, not about trading, just about what this means. The idea feels huge and fragile and strangely reachable at once. If we go that route, he says and stares down. He picks at a loose thread on his sleeve and swallows hard. He asks if I would still see him as the real parent. Not the backup, not the extra, not the guy paying bills. He cannot look at me while he waits for my answer. I slide closer and take both his hands into mine. I tell him any child we raise together will be ours. I tell him no file or blood test changes nightly routines. He squeezes my fingers so tight it almost hurts in a good way. For a moment, I actually believe that reassurance will be enough forever. He sets one condition and it comes fast like he rehearsed it. If we do this, nobody else needs the full story. He wants our future kid to know they were wanted deeply. He wants extended relatives to stay out of our medical business completely. He repeats that he refuses to be treated like an outsider. We talk about therapists and books and maybe telling the truth later. He nods along but keeps circling back to one fixed point. He needs to feel like the first person in that child life, not some extras standing on the edge of every family photo. I watch him build rules around a baby that does not exist yet. The next week we sit in a different office with another counselor. This one walks us through profiles and success rates in legal forms. He cracks awkward jokes about shopping for traits and then winces. He keeps asking if there is any way to match his features. I notice how his jaw tightens each time the counselor says not guaranteed. When they bring out the stack of donor summaries, he goes quiet. He flips through them faster than I can read the first lines. He pauses whenever he sees a hobby or career that overlaps his. It looks like he is interviewing ghosts for a job he wanted. I feel this strange mix of gratitude and unease rise in my chest. Finally, he taps one profile and slides it toward me with purpose. This one, he says, and his voice does not waver now. Similar build, similar background, similar interests, almost like a manufactured twin. He explains that if we choose closer to him, the kid wins. I understand he also means maybe he will not feel so replaced. We sign what feels like a mountain of official papers. He grips the pen like it weighs 100 pounds now. At one point he stops and looks right at me. If this blows up later, that is on me, not you. The way he claims all the future blame makes my chest tighten. Back then I heard that sentence as proof of commitment. Now I replay it like the first crack on a long line. Even in that quiet office, he was already protecting me from himself. He just did not know which version of himself he was shielding from. I should have listened harder to the fear behind his careful tone. The nurse points at the empty chair and smiles. Is Dad joining us or is he stuck today? I stare at the doorway longer than I should. Yeah, he is coming, he just got held up. I lie before I even finish wondering if he will actually show. Gel hits my skin and the monitor hums to life. I focus on the ceiling and count slow breaths. The nurse moves the probe and the rhythm starts thumping. Strong heartbeat, she says, and I feel my chest loosen. I still glance at that open doorway like the sound might pull him in. The door swings halfway through the scan and he slips inside. He apologizes in a rush while wiping his forehead with his sleeve. Traffic went insane, I almost turned around and went home. He drops into the chair and grips the armrest like a lifeline. His eyes flick to the screen, then away as if it burns. The nurse chats and points out little limbs and a spine. She calls him Dad and nudges the monitor closer to his line. He leans forward but keeps one hand still on his knee. That thing is really in there, he whispers with a strange laugh. Hearing him say thing makes my stomach twitch for a second. Afterward in the hallway, he wraps an arm around me. He jokes about helmets and college funds and ridiculous daycare prices. His energy feels high and jittery like he drank too much coffee. I try to ride that wave and not overanalyze every twitch. Later, I catch him washing his hands longer than usual in silence. That night, he talks to my bump for the first time. Hey kid, get ready for the coolest dad in town. He rests his head on my stomach and stays there a while. Then he adds, too bad I cannot take credit for the blueprint. He laughs but does not look up and the joke hangs there. I nudge his shoulder and tell him we agreed on this. He nods against my skin and mutters, I know, I know. He asks if the nurse said anything weird about resemblance. I tell him the baby currently looks like a blurry peanut. He goes quiet and presses his ear harder like he can fix that. Weeks later, our friends invite us over for a small barbecue. Everyone circles around me like I am carrying a sacred object. He hovers close and keeps topping off drinks and checking the grill. One friend pats his back and grins huge at my stomach. Dude, that kid is definitely getting your stubborn face and loud laugh. Everyone laughs and claps and my cheeks hurt from smiling. He forces a chuckle that dies off quicker than the rest. His fingers tighten around the cup hard enough to warp it. I catch his eyes and he looks away fast like he slipped. On the drive home, he keeps the radio loud enough to block thoughts. Halfway back, he kills the music mid-chorus without warning. Why does everyone assume it is genetically mine already? His hands drum on the steering wheel in an erratic rhythm. Because we told them we are expecting and you are the father. The word father lands differently from the back of my throat. He scoffs and shakes his head, still watching the road. What happens when the kid looks nothing like me at all? You think they will still make those jokes then? I ask why he is treating this like a trap we set. He shrugs and says I am thinking ahead because someone has to. He starts skipping some of the smaller appointments after that. Work exploded this week, he tosses over his shoulder. I stand in the doorway holding my bag and trying not to nag. It is only blood work and weight tracking, I tell myself. Still, I sit alone in waiting rooms staring at couples across from me. When I get home, he quizzes me on every detail recorded. Who was there? Did they mention the donor situation at all? He wants to know if anyone looked at him differently last time. I tell him no one cares that much about our chart. He nods, but his jaw stays tight like he does not buy it. One evening I me back from a prenatal class glowing and tired. We practice breathing and some light stretches on yoga mats. I tell him the instructor asked about partners and support systems. He raises an eyebrow and leans back on the couch. Did you tell them I am not the biological contributor or what? I feel the air shift around us with that single question. I answer that I told them I have a husband who is involved. He laughs once sharp and claps his hands together. Involved sounds like I am a volunteer, not a parent. He stares at the television, but his attention is nowhere near it. He starts scrolling late at night on his phone beside me. I pretend to sleep and watch the glow on his face. He reads endless posts about kids hunting for their donors. Every swipe seems to pull him deeper into some tunnel. At one point he whispers this is exactly what will happen to us. I roll toward him and ask him to shut it off. He locks the screen and drops the phone on his chest. What if they grow up and decide I am just the guy who raised them? His voice cracks on just like that part hurts the most. I tell him raising is the whole job and he closes his eyes. When we start buying tiny clothes, he turns weirdly intense. He refuses anything that might hint at another background. He wants jerseys that match his favorite teams and inside jokes. If people see us together, they should assume we match instantly. He repeats that line like a spell while folding each shirt. At our next scan, the tech asks if we want to know gender. I glance over and he answers yes before I can speak. When we find out, his face lights up in a way I missed. A son, he whispers and squeezes my hand almost painfully tight. Then his gaze darts around my features like he is mapping them. On the car ride home, he starts designing their future in detail. He lists sports and instruments and weekend rituals they will share. He keeps repeating my boy," under his breath. For a second, I actually relax into that possessive tone. Then he adds, I just hope he does not wonder whose blood is in him. Sleep gets harder the bigger my stomach grows and the months drag. Every time I wake to use the bathroom, he is awake too. He claims heartburn or random anxiety about finances and job security. I know he is thinking about DNA and secrets and control. Sometimes his hand rests on my hip so light it feels hesitant. One afternoon his mother calls while I am napping on the couch. I wake to his voice in the kitchen turned low and tight. I hear him say we are not talking about that part with anyone. There is a pause, then he adds especially not the family. He hangs up and walks back in wearing a strained smile. Everything okay? I ask while rubbing my face slowly. He nods and leans down to kiss my forehead. Mom wants to start a family group chat for baby photos. He laughs, but there is no joy in it, just pressure. I picture him policing every comment before sending anything out. The closer we get to the due date, the more restless he becomes. He cleans obsessively and reorganizes drawers over and over again. He snaps at small things, then apologizes twice as fast. He spends long minutes staring at the framed donor paperwork we locked away. I catch him once with it in his hands and he freezes like a thief. You still think this was the right path? He asks quietly. He is not angry in that moment, just tired and scared. I tell him I think we did the best we could with what we had. He studies my face like he is searching for any hesitation. Whatever you do, do not lie to me about this, he whispers. Looking back, that line was the real warning before everything unraveled. Not the late arrivals or the jokes that felt too sharp. Not the restless cleaning or the constant research at 2 in the morning. It was that plea for honesty from a man already doubting himself. I just did not realize the next thing he would question was me. The subject line hits me before the nausea does. Question about your donor arrangement. For a second, I think it is spam and almost swipe away. Then I notice my full name spelled right in the preview. My stomach pulls tight before I even open the message. I tap it and the first line knocks the air out. Your husband reached out to me last week and I'm uncomfortable. I read it twice because my brain stalls on that sentence. The baby shifts hard against my ribs like he heard it. I feel heat rush up my neck while the room stays quiet. The sender name is familiar in a way that makes me dizzy. I have only seen it on clinic paperwork tucked in our folder. Seeing it in my inbox feels like someone stepped into our bedroom. My thumb trembles while I scroll down through the paragraphs slowly. I already know this email will change something I cannot fix later. The donor explains he got a string of messages on social media. My husband apparently tracked him down using scraps of clinic details. The screenshots are pasted right there. In the middle, little blue bubbles lined up like bullets ready to fire. I start reading them and feel my chest squeeze tighter. Do you understand what you actually did to my life? That is my wife and my kid you're attached to. Stay away from my family forever and do not respond. The next one is worse and I almost drop the phone. You were a service, not a father, remember that. I taste metal in my mouth and realize I have been clenching. The donor writes that he did not answer those early messages. He assumed it was grief and insecurity and tried to ignore it. Then another set of screenshots appears further down the thread. This time the tone has shifted from rage to begging. Look, I am losing my mind over this whole situation. What if the baby never sees me as anything real? What if he grows up and looks for you instead? I need to know you will never try to contact him. Please swear you will stay a ghost completely. The donor writes that he finally replied to that one. He tells me he agreed to all boundaries we set before. He reminds my husband that the law and the contracts stand. He says he repeated that he has no intention of showing up. Then he asked casually if my husband's message had my consent. There is a time stamp next to that question. Under it, there is nothing from my husband at all. Just silence in the thread until the donor tracked down my email. He explains he searched because something about that silence felt wrong. He wanted to be sure I knew this contact even happened. I lean back against the couch and press the phone to my leg. The baby pushes again like he hates the pressure. My heart knocks against my ribs in rough, uneven beats. I stare at the ceiling and try to collect my scattered thoughts. Anger and embarrassment start fighting for first place in my chest. I read the email again slower this time and catch every detail. The donor apologizes multiple times for invading my space like this. He says he respects our arrangement and our privacy completely. He only broke the wall because my husband sounded frantic and unstable. He writes one line that stings more than I want to admit. I got the impression he might turn this against you later. That sentence makes my fingers go cold around the phone. I think of the kitchen argument and the calendar in his hand. I think of the nights he obsessed over genetics and bloodlines. Suddenly, all of it feels less random and more like a plan. I call the clinic before I can talk myself out of it. My voice comes out calm enough to fool the receptionist. I ask how strict their privacy rules are regarding donors. She recites the policy like a script she has memorized forever. I ask if any staff can see both our names and his. There is a pause that stretches a little too long to ignore. She transfers me to a nurse who sounds tired but professional. I ask straight out if anyone ever mentioned identifying details to us. She insists they never reveal last names or contact methods or locations. She stresses that donors are protected and that is non-negotiable. So I ask the obvious question that has been building. Then how did my husband find this man online by himself? The nurse stutters and then mentions an offhand comment months ago. She remembers joking about the donor's old college, sport, and city. Two tiny facts that suddenly look like breadcrumbs leading straight outward. I thank her and hang up before my voice betrays me. My hands shake so badly I set the phone down carefully. I walk to the bathroom and splash water on my face. The mirror shows someone who looks exhausted and older than yesterday. I catch my own eyes and feel this heavy wave of shame. Because here is the truth I hate admitting. Part of me understands why he was tempted to reach out. He has been walking around with invisible bruises since the diagnosis. He has been trying to claim fatherhood with both hands. Still, he crossed a line we built together, and that matters. The front door opens while I am still gripping the sink. Keys drop on the counter and he calls my name once. I dry my hands slowly and walk back into the living room. He looks at me and instantly notices something is wrong. His smile falters and his shoulders lift defensively like a shield. What happened? His voice careful, like he is approaching a wild animal. I pick up my phone and hold it out toward him. Someone wrote to me today, you should probably see it. He glances at the screen and his jaw tightens on instinct. The moment he recognizes the sender, his entire body stiffens. Where did you get that? His words come out flat and low. The donor emailed me, he wanted to make sure I knew. I watch the color drain from his face in real time. He licks his lips and looks around like the walls are listening. Then he laughs short and bitter and calls the donor dramatic. I ask how long he has been messaging this man behind my back. He says it was just a couple of times, nothing huge. I tap the screenshots again and raise my eyebrows. A couple meaning what? 3 days, 10 messages, 2 sets of threats. His eyes narrow when he realizes I read every single line. I did not threaten him, he insists while pacing in short lines. I just made it clear he needs to stay out of this. My finger hovers over the quote about being a service. You reduced him to a transaction after using his help. He throws his hands up and snaps that it was a transaction. I feel the baby roll and my lower back ache at once. You did not even tell me you were reaching out to him. He blames the timing, says I have enough on my mind. He claims he wanted to handle it so I could rest. I ask, since when does protecting me include lying directly to my face? He stops pacing and plants himself in front of me. His eyes are bright and restless and a little wild. You do not get what it feels like to be replaced. He presses a hand over his chest as he speaks. Every time someone says our son will have his father's smile, it burns. I remind him we picked this donor together months ago. We read those profiles and signed those forms side by side. He starts shaking his head before I even finish. Back then I thought I could handle it, I was wrong. Hearing him admit that now feels like the floor shifting under me. So your solution was what? Intimidate him into disappearing forever. My voice rises in a way that startles both of us. He steps closer and lowers his own like he is calming me. I needed him to understand his place before the baby arrives. The word place crawls under my skin and settles there. He rakes a hand through his hair and paces again. You do not know how many stories I read at night. Kids tracking down donors and cutting off the guy who raised them. He tells me he lies awake replaying those threads over and over. He swears he only wanted a promise it would not be us. I hold up the phone and point at the donor's last line. He already promised more than once in writing and legally. That still was not enough for you, apparently. He stares at the screen like it personally betrayed him. He mutters that people change their minds when real children exist. Then he asks a question I did not see coming. Did you ever want to talk to him yourself? My mouth opens then closes because I do not know immediately. He studies my face, carefully searching for any flicker of interest. You thought about it, I can see it right now. I admit I was curious in the early planning days. I wondered what kind of man signs up for this role. I wondered if he regretted it or felt proud or nothing. I never searched for him because we built rules for a reason. Saying that out loud only highlights who actually broke those rules. He sinks onto the couch and rubs his palms over his jeans. How did you respond to that email? His voice rough now. I tell him I have not replied, yet I wanted this conversation first. His shoulders sag a little with relief at that small detail. Then he asks me not to answer at all ever. That request lights something stubborn inside me instantly. You do not get to decide how I handle my own inbox. He argues that answering will open a permanent door to the donor. He says once that door is cracked, it never closes again. I think about that image and realize the door is already open. I tell him I am going to write back something clear and short. Just to confirm boundaries and thank him for being honest. He jumps up and grabs the phone from my hand. His fingers curl around it so tight his knuckles strain. For a second I honestly think he might smash it. Give it back now. I keep my voice low and steady. We lock eyes and neither of us moves for a long beat. Then he places the phone on the coffee table carefully. I pick it up and step away like I need distance. My hands barely shake now because my anger is sharper than fear. I type with him watching from a few feet away. I thank the donor for his concern and honesty. I confirm we still want no direct contact with our future child. I make it clear that any future concerns need to come to me. I add one line that makes my husband close his eyes. I was not aware of my husband's messages and will address that. I hit send before I can soften it or rephrase anything. The whoosh sound feels like a tiny door slamming shut. He lets out a long breath and drops onto the couch again. His elbows rest on his knees and his hands cover his face. You just told him there is a crack in our home. His voice is muffled, but I hear every word clearly. I tell him that crack existed the second he went behind me. He shakes his head like he can rattle the thought loose. He insists outsiders never need to know about our private fights. I stare at him and feel something heavy settle inside. He's still more worried about optics than trust right now. I tell him this is not about shame, it is about safety. If he spirals again, the donor has my direct contact now. He glares and asks safety from who exactly. From your fear, I answer, and the room goes very still. He drops his hands slowly and looks at me like a stranger. You think I am dangerous now over this, he asks. I tell him I think he is losing his grip on reality. And I am not going to let that swallow our kid. He stands and walks toward the hallway without another word. For a second, I think he is leaving the house entirely. Instead, he disappears into the spare room and slams the door once. I hear drawers opening and paper shuffling and something thump hard. I do not follow because I am scared of what I will find. Later that night, I pass the room to get water. The door is cracked and I see him at the desk. He is hunched over a notebook, writing in tight, cramped lines. Next to him sit our clinic folders stacked in a messy pile. He looks up when he feels me there and his eyes are strange. I am just making sure everything lines up, he murmurs. His fingers flip through appointment cards and lab printouts. He circles dates and draws arrows and underlines specific weeks. It looks like the calendar scene from our fight was only rehearsal. Watching him do it in secret this time chills me to the core. I go back to bed and lie awake listening for movement. Every shift of the mattress makes my back ache and my mind race. I rest a hand on my stomach and feel a small kick. I whisper to the baby that we will figure this out somehow. Even as I say it, I know it is getting less true. The envelope falls out of his backpack and hits the floor. A bright logo from a genetics lab stares up at me. He bends to grab it, but my foot gets there first. I step on the corner and feel paper crumple under my heel. My heart is already racing before I even read the heading. He freezes with his hand suspended over my shoe. Mia, move your foot, he murmurs without looking at me. I do not move, I just stare him down. My skin prickles because I recognize the company name immediately. It is the same brand from all those late-night articles. I crouch slowly and pick up the envelope. His fingers brush mine and then drop away fast. My name is nowhere on the front, only his. Inside, something stiff shifts when I tilt it slightly. I ask if there is anything he wants to share first. He swallows and presses his lips in a hard line. It is just paperwork for insurance, nothing big. The lie is so lazy it almost insults me. I slide a thumb under the seal and rip it open. A folded report slips out and the title makes my stomach twist. Paternity Evaluation Summary. 2 ID numbers are printed beneath the title in bold. One label says alleged father, the other says child. Underneath, there is a short conclusion with one clean sentence. Probability of biological relationship, 0. For a second, all I hear is the baby monitor crackling. My eyes skim the page again while my brain lags behind. He reaches for the paper and I step back out of reach. You tested our son without me, I ask quietly. My voice shakes, but the words land sharp between us. He exhales hard and drags a hand over his face. I needed certainty, okay, I could not breathe anymore. Certainty about what exactly? That your own agreement was real. He paces in a slow, tight path across the living room. I keep the report held high like evidence in a courtroom. How did you even get his sample? My throat feels dry. He shrugs one shoulder without meeting my eyes. I just swabbed his cheek one night when you were asleep. He says it like he borrowed a charger, not our child. Heat surges through me so fast I feel slightly dizzy. You put something in our baby mouth while I slept. My words come out louder than I plan, they echo. He flinches and finally looks at me head on. You act like I heard him, it took 2 seconds. The point is, we know for sure now there is no link. I laugh once and it sounds rough and wrong. We knew that the day we signed all those forms. You turned our entire plan into some secret investigation anyway. I shake the report at him and the paper rattles. You turned me into a potential liar in your head. He steps closer and jabs a finger at the page. Read the conclusion again. Mia read it out loud. I refuse and drop the sheet on the coffee table. He snatches it and waves it like a flag. This is the truth you pushed me into, and now it is permanent. The baby lets out a small cry through the monitor. My shoulders twitch toward the hallway on instinct. I stand still because I do not trust myself alone yet. He glances toward the sound and then back to the report. You hear that and still do not get why I panicked. I ask who else knows about this test besides us. He hesitates too long and my stomach sinks lower. His mother asked how I was really doing, so I told her. He lifts his hands like that explains everything suddenly. She wanted to make sure you had not tricked me somehow. The word trick hits like a punch straight in the chest. So your family thinks I might have snuck around with someone. He insists they are just protective and scared for him. I remind him his mother already knows about the donor arrangement. He shrugs again and says knowing is not the same as trusting. Later that week she comes over with a casserole and a smile. She coos over the baby but keeps her distance from me. He beams while handing our son into her arms. Look at you, little traveler, she croons in an odd tone. Houseguest fits you for now, huh, until things get sorted. My grip tightens around the glass in my hand. I watch her rock him like he is on loan. What does that mean, until things get sorted, I ask. She glances at her son instead of answering me directly. You two still have paperwork to figure out, that is all. My pulse thumps in my ears as I stare at her. She knows about the test, I say, not really asking. His shoulders hunch and he rubs the back of his neck. It came up on the phone once, he mutters to the floor. I needed someone to talk to who was on my side. Your side against who exactly, I snap. Against science, against me, against a newborn who just arrived. She bristles and clutches the baby tighter against her chest. We just worry you got swept up in her dream. Her dream does not automatically make it fair for you. I feel my face heat and my hands tremble. Give him back, please, my tone is flat and firm. She hesitates, then places him in my arms with a sigh. You cannot blame a grandmother for wanting her own blood. The phrase her own blood shreds whatever patience I have left. After she leaves, he slams the door and curses under his breath. You did not have to bite her head off today. I rock the baby and try not to yell over his crying. She called our son a temporary visitor in his own home. If you cannot see that problem, then we have a bigger one. He starts pacing again, the same short path he always uses. You are twisting her words, she is from another generation. She's trying to understand something that feels unnatural to her. He grabs a cushion and squeezes it like he wants to crush it. Meanwhile, you keep acting like my feelings are the only problem here. Your feelings are not the problem, I fire back. The sneaking, the test, the gossip, that is the problem. I point down the hallway where the baby monitor glows. You walked into his room and stole DNA off his face. That is not protective, that is paranoid and cruel. He stops pacing and plants himself in front of me again. His eyes are red-rimmed and his throat works as he swallows. I needed proof in my hands before everything got locked legally. I did not want to wake up one day completely erased. His voice roughens on that last word like something tearing. You were never going to be erased, I say. You are on the birth certificate, you cut the cord. You are the one who holds him when I cannot stand. He shakes his head and laughs without humor. In a few years, he could spit in a tube and look elsewhere. That line chills me more than anything in the report. So you are planning your resentment years in advance now. He shrugs like that is just reality, not a threat. I tell him that if he keeps going like this, he will create exactly what he fears. Our son will feel the distance and go search for comfort. He snorts and turns toward the kitchen. You are really blaming me for hypothetical teenage rebellion now. He opens a drawer and rummages through a stack of envelopes. I hear paper rustle and then see another lab logo flash. He pulls out a second sealed packet and stuffs it in his pocket. What is that, I ask, my voice suddenly calm. He freezes with his hand half inside the pocket. Just a duplicate in case we lose the first one. He tries to walk past me and I step into his path. You held onto copies like weapons and did not tell me. We stand toe to toe in the hallway, not backing up. I tell him plainly that those reports do not belong here. They do not help him connect, they only feed his worst thoughts. He says they remind him he was right to be suspicious. He says every time he looks at them, he hears "I told you so." I ask the question I have been avoiding since this started. Do you actually believe I cheated on you with someone else? Silence stretches between us long enough to make my stomach churn. He finally mutters that he does not know what to believe anymore, which in my ears sounds exactly like yes, just softer. I walk to the nursery and lean over the crib. Our son's tiny fingers curl around mine with surprising strength. Behind me in the doorway, I can feel his stare. This child exists because we fought for him, I say. If you keep treating him like evidence, you will lose us both. He leans against the frame and folds his arms tightly. Where would you even go, he asks, almost mocking. You think any judge will ignore that report if I show it? You think they will not ask why you signed up for this? He tosses legal phrases around like spare change in his pocket. I too. Aren and face him fully so there is no confusion. If you weaponize that test against me, we are done for good. Not counseling, not breaks, not sleeping in separate rooms, done. He flinches when I say it with that much certainty. For once, I see real fear flicker across his features. In that moment, I feel something shift inside my chest. Up until now, I have been trying to rescue his pride, apologizing when he spiraled, agreeing to new boundaries daily. Suddenly, I am just tired and oddly clear. I realize I am the only one still defending this family. He asks what that look on my face means right now. I tell him calmly that I will talk to a lawyer. Not to hurt him, not yet anyway, but to know my options. His mouth opens, then closes without sound, and his shoulders sag. He did not expect me to grab a weapon of my own. That night, I tuck the baby in and sit beside the crib. The house feels like it belongs to strangers, even with my things inside. I can hear him moving around the living room, opening and closing drawers. Probably counting documents and checking dates like always. I start mentally listing what I would need if I left tomorrow. I imagine packing a bag while he is at work, grabbing the birth certificate and our son's medical folder, calling a friend and asking for a couch and a car ride. The thought used to scare me enough to shut it down. Now it feels like a plan forming instead of a nightmare. Here is the part I am least proud of. I do not tell him that I already scheduled a consultation. I let him believe I am just venting in the hallway. He falls asleep on the couch, clutching that report like a shield. I lie awake in our bed deciding who I will be in my next chapter. He drops the stack of forms onto the rolling table and jolts the bassinet. Our son startles and lets out a thin cry. I pull the clear box closer and rest my hand near his head. You need to sign this before they discharge us, his voice sharpens on need. He taps one line like it is a loaded trigger. The heading reads Acknowledgement of Parentage and Custody. Underneath are blanks waiting for signatures and dates. He has already filled in his full name in neat letters. The spot for mine is empty, like I have vanished. The hospital bracelet scratches my wrist as I reach for the pen. Wait, I say, what changed since yesterday? He drags the visitor chair closer and sits without settling. Yesterday, I was the one insisting we leave as a family. Today, he looks like a man negotiating a contract with a stranger. His knee bounces hard enough to rattle the metal frame. He points again at the line for legal father. They want clarity before we walk out of here. His jaw works while he searches for the right wording. If we split later, this paper decides everything about him. He jerks his chin toward the sleeping baby like evidence. I stare at the documents and feel my pulse climb. We already put your name on the birth certificate. That should mean something even to your anxiety. He leans back and folds his arms tight across his chest. Birth certificates can be challenged, he mutters toward the window. I feel anger rise, but it is weirdly focused. You want something in writing that locks me down. He opens his mouth, then closes it again and exhales. I need something that proves I chose this, not you alone. The way he splits us into sides cuts deeper than he knows. A nurse knocks once and pokes her head inside. She asks if we have any questions about discharge instructions. He flashes a quick smile and says we are fine. His tone is smooth enough that she backs out immediately. I watch the door close and feel completely not fine. He slides the top page toward me again, slower now. If you really never cheated, then this only helps us. His eyes are steady and oddly calm when he says it. I let the word cheated hang in the air a moment. You still cannot even pretend to believe me without paperwork. He rubs his forehead like he can erase the last months. I am trying to protect myself before everything goes to court. The way he says court sends a sharp jolt through me. You think lawyers are already a given, not a last resort. His silence answers that better than any sentence. Our son whimpers and kicks under the thin blanket. I slide a finger into his tiny fist and he squeezes. For a second the room shrinks to just that grip. Then my husband stands and starts pacing near the footboard. We cannot leave this place with question marks hanging over us. I ask what happens if I refuse to sign today. He stops moving and stares like I spoke another language. You would actually walk out of here without my signature. He sounds more insulted than frightened, which tells me a lot. I answer yes before I can soften it for him. He drags the chair even closer so our knees almost touch. Look at him and tell me you will not regret that. His hand hovers over the bassinet but does not land. In his eyes I see fear, love, and resentment mixed. It is a dangerous combination and we both know it. I pick up the pen and spin it between my fingers. Okay, I say, tell me what you think this paper does. He leans forward and speaks slowly like he rehearsed last night. It confirms I am the one responsible for him, not some donor. It says you cannot change your mind and push me out. I almost laugh because the irony hits that hard. You are terrified of being pushed out while planning your exit routes. You ordered hidden tests and collected copies like trophies. You let your mother label our baby a temporary stay. Now you want me to promise I will never run. His face flushes and he grips the armrest like anchors. That test proved you kept your promise about not cheating. It also proved this kid has no genetic tie to me. Both truths live on the same sheet and I cannot ignore either. He tosses his hands up like he is surrendering to reality. I feel something quiet click inside my chest. I am done chasing his reassurance with mine. I look at my son again and then back at him. I tell him this paper is not the problem. His inability to trust anything without proof is the problem. He blinks slowly and his shoulders dip a fraction. So you will not sign, he asks. I say I will, but not under his version of the story. His eyebrows pull together and he stares like I grew another head. What do you mean, not my version? I flip the page over and grab the pen again. At the margin I write a short sentence in cramped letters. Child conceived via approved donor with mutual consent of both parents. I underline mutual once and set the pen down. If you want the truth in writing, that is the truth. He reads the line and his throat moves as he swallows. You really have to announce that to every stranger in records. I say I am done hiding like we committed some serious crime. This is our reality, not a scandal. If he signs under the same fact I carry. He sinks back into the chair and looks exhausted. What if that sentence gives some judge ideas later? I ask what ideas exactly, that we were honest from the beginning. He drags his palms down his face and groans quietly. You are not hearing how men lose everything in these situations. I glance at the bassinet again and feel my resolve harden. You are not losing him unless you choose to walk. But I will not help you pretend this never happened. Your fear does not get to erase the route we took. He stares at me like he is seeing a stranger in my skin. He stands up and circles the bed once, restless. Maybe we should delay discharge and talk to someone neutral. He mentions hospital social workers and legal advisors in a rush. Part of me appreciates the sudden interest in professional help. Another part knows he wants witnesses for his worry. I press the call button before I can overthink it. When the nurse returns, I ask about speaking with a counselor. She nods and says she can request someone from the floor. He looks surprised that I actually took his suggestion seriously. He did not expect me to invite a third pair of ears. The social worker arrives with a clipboard and a gentle expression. She pulls up a chair and asks how she can help. My husband starts talking before I can open my mouth. He explains about donor conception, then the test, then his fear. He uses words like uncertain status and possible future disputes. I wait for him to finish the polished version. Then I talk about secret swabs and hidden reports in late-night searches. I mention his messages to the donor and the email I received. I say straight out I am worried how far his paranoia could go. The worker's eyes flick between us, taking in every detail. She asks one simple question that lands heavy between us. Do you feel safe making decisions together for this child right now? I answer no at the exact moment he answers yes. We both hear the split and the room goes quiet. Our son stirs and lets out a tiny sound in the pause. She notices the forms on the table and reads the top lines. She asks if we understand what signing means in our state. He nods quickly and insists that is why he wants it. I add that I will only sign with the donor line noted. Her gaze sharpens like she recognizes a fault line forming. She asks him directly if he intends to use genetic testing in future disputes. He hesitates, then shrugs, then mutters he cannot promise anything. That admission hits me harder than any insult we have exchanged. The worker nods slowly and writes something on her page. I know in my gut she just logged a warning. She suggests we consider temporary counseling before adding more legal layers. She says we can still take our baby home today. We can sign after a session once we both feel heard. He shakes his head and says he needs security now. I realize he is bargaining with her like she is a judge already. I interrupt and ask her quietly another question. If I leave his name on the birth certificate and refuse this form, what happens? She explains I maintain full rights as the birth parent. He keeps presumed rights while living with us and caring for him. Any change later would involve a courtroom and a full review. In other words, I still have options even if I walk. That sentence settles over me like a strange kind of calm. I thank her and say we will discuss it privately a bit more. She leaves her card on the tray and steps out. The door closes and the room feels sharper, not bigger. He turns on me as soon as we are alone again. You planned this, his hand cuts through the air. You wanted some professional to tell you I am unstable. I shake my head and feel my patience snap inside. No, I wanted someone to hear what actually happened. He presses his palms onto the mattress near my knees. So what now? He asks, what is your big move? I pick up the form and hold it between us. I am not signing this today, not while you talk about future battles. You can stay and be his father without extra weapons. He laughs once, short and harsh. You realize I can petition for my rights later anyway. I nod and say I know that very well. And I will walk into that hearing with every message and report, including the part where you swabbed our newborn in secret. For the first time, his confidence cracks in front of me. His shoulders slump and he looks suddenly smaller near the bed. You would actually drag me through that for real? I look at our son and then back at him. I will do whatever keeps this baby away from your worst panic. Silence stretches again and I let it sit. You can choose therapy and real honesty and stay, I say. Or you can keep treating him like a case file and lose us. Those are the only options I am willing to live with now. My voice does not shake, which scares both of us a little. He sinks into the chair and stares at his hands. I need time, he whispers. I did not expect this. I tell him time exists, but we are still leaving today. Our son needs a home, not a war zone. You can come with us or meet him through court papers later. I dress the baby slowly while he watches in silence. Every snap feels heavier than it should. I talk to my son under my breath as I work. We are going home, I tell him, wherever that ends up being. I mean it more for myself than for his sleepy ears. When the nurse returns with final instructions, he signs his sections. He hesitates over the extra form, then pushes it back. Guess this waits, he mutters, eyes fixed on the bassinet. I tuck the social worker's card into my bag along with diapers. My hands are steady now in a way they were not yesterday. He walks beside the wheelchair as they roll us toward the exit. One hand hovers near our son like he might catch him. He looks at me once, searching for something that is already gone. I look straight ahead and hold our boy a little tighter. Somewhere between the nursing station and those doors, I stop being just his wife.